Hi, very good afternoon to you. I'm going to say something a little bit different than I usually do at the beginning of this video, and of course, you know, you can behave like the majority of the people on this channel do on this very important day here at the observatory. Of course, you know what that means. This is the day we take a pinpoint position of the migrating magnetic North Pole, and of course, you know, you can skip this part and go straight to that information, but all that will happen, I guarantee you this, and you've seen this happen before, is that one day you will come back to this channel for that free information and it won't be there. Guys, you're all adults. You've seen how this works in your own communities when you fail to support those local businesses. They go under, simple as that, and I don't need to say anything else. All I want to say is, where else can you get this information from? You know, we are unlike any other YouTube channel. We have our own observatory. We have one of the only Trimag systems in existence. If you went out there to try and build one of these, or have someone build it for you, you would be talking in the terms of 100,000 plus, with all the work that is necessary that goes into that. You know, it took me 2 years to program that equipment alone. So, you know, the thing is that, you know, more now than ever we're doing more work, and we seem to be getting less support from people despite now having 50,000 subscribers. And I always say this: you've got as many subscribers that watched your last video. So in that term, we probably have 5,000 regular people coming here, but out of that, sadly, only 1 or 2 will actually chip in to the running of this observatory. Now, it costs money to build this equipment. It also requires time to not just program that equipment, keep it up to date, keep it running, keep in contact with the people that have, you know, gratefully, I'm so grateful that they've taken out their time to have the magnetometers, and now we've got another one going out to Colombia next week, or later on this week, just as soon as we finish doing a bit of testing on it. But you know, there isn't another website out there that is doing exactly what we're doing, and doing it at the resolution at which we do here at the observatory. And in a few seconds you're going to see, when you look at the Trimag data, that there is 250,000 readings done in the last month on the positioning of the magnetic North Pole alone. That's without the magnetometers that are out there in the field, and the Magnetosphere sensor that we have here at the observatory that monitor everything every 15 minutes. There's no other channel on YouTube that does actually walk the walk and not just talk the talk. So, you know, there is a link down there if you want to help support us and keep this information coming for you. I do understand, guys, I completely understand that there are people really feeling the pinch because of the current global climate situation right now, but there is at least 5,000 people that regularly watch this information, and today there'll probably be about 10,000 people watch this video because it's the most important video we do of the month. And you know, out of those, sadly, just a few will support. Just like I said at the beginning, you know, you've seen this in your own communities when you fail to support local businesses. They go under, and this will be no different to that case. Without the support, we simply can't deliver the information we do. So I really hope that, you know, a few people haven't just skipped this point in the video and gone on to get the information, because if that is the case, that day will come when people come to get the information and it's gone, and it will not be recoverable from that point on. So a link's down there in the description. I hope you support it. Let's get on with the data then. So starting with the magnetosphere data, I noticed that when I updated the data today, as you can see there, there was a slight rise of over 200 on the left hand scale. Now remember, it's regardless of whatever them numbers mean on the left hand scale, we use it as a benchmark, something that we can focus on over the coming years to see how it changes. So it doesn't mean that because it's on 200 and the red line's sort of like bobs up and down on that 200 mark, that it means that there is 200 microtesla or nanotesla or anything like that. What we do know is that over a regular period of time, it does go up and down around 1 microtesla. And what I have noticed is that over the time that we've been studying the magnetosphere strength, is that it started off, when we started doing this, being around 199 on that scale, but it has crept up to 200, which would be an indication that the actual magnetosphere has strengthened slightly. The only thing I can think of that would cause an increase when we would expect a decrease is that the solar cycle becomes more active. When it becomes more active, it obviously plumps up our magnetosphere a little bit, and therefore it has increased slightly because of the position at where we are in solar cycle 25. Now, more recently, we've been seeing a lot of activity. I think on the last Earth Health at a Glance, we looked at the data and we saw that there were 7 active sunspot regions. You know, so we must be coming into solar maximum during this cycle, or, you know, we're in obviously a period of time where there's a lot more activity, whereas normally we'd be at the lower end of the solar cycle, the beginnings of the cycle. We're not. We're obviously starting to see a more active sun. So I believe, because of the interaction between the magnetosphere of Earth and that incoming solar radiation, as a result of a more active sun disk in terms of sunspots, we are seeing a slight increase in our magnetosphere. We also know that when the sun increases in its sunspot activity, it also plumps up our heliosphere, which is our first and prime protective field. So, you know, that's a good thing. So if we're seeing more activity on the sun, we know that the heliosphere is expanding and keeping our solar system, you know, protected from inbound galactic and intergalactic radiation. So moving on to the TriMag data. Taking a look now at our current TriMag data, what we can see from looking at the chart is that it is still bumping up around 1350 regularly, and is pushing gradually up towards the 14, which tells us that the magnetic North Pole is not going back like some people think. It hasn't stayed still like some people think. It is actually progressing easterly towards Russia, and we know why that is. When we look at the intensity maps, we can see that Canada's strength is weakening, Russia's is increasing, and Russia is stealing away the magnetic North Pole from Canada, as it has done for the last 120 years. So, you know, it's no surprise that when we do a pinpoint position of the magnetic North Pole, we find this out. So what we can see based on that is that the magnetic North Pole has migrated a further 5.2 miles over the northern hemisphere. For those of you that are following on your own Google Earth map and pinning these positions, the latitude is 82 degrees by 19 hours 19 minutes 99 seconds north. Longitude is 117 degrees by 52 hours 12 minutes 43 seconds east. You can see that, you know, it hasn't slowed down. It's maintaining on average around 5.1 miles per month, and that puts us around about 8 months away at this current rate of migration to that 40-degree mark. It's a theoretical mark. It's where, you know, I anticipate something should start to happen based on a few experiments and a lot of, you know, time thinking about this. You know, we are dealing with magnetics on a global scale, and I don't see, you know, why things should behave differently just because the size of scales that are, you know, at play right now. So the macro and the micro, I'm predicting, are still behaving as magnets would do, and for that reason, you know, I suspect we might be leaving the strong field lines, which allows a magnetic north pole that migrates slowly to do that, but on the boundary of where those field lines go into the weak field lines, we should see a more rapid movement of the pole. If that is the case, what I anticipate is what we've witnessed over the last 30 years of like a gear shift in the migrating north pole. And at that same time, you know, we've seen a lot of changes in the climate on our planet. And not like a lot of people think, it's not man related. It's not because we've put CO2 into the atmosphere. It's because of our magnetosphere has changed, it has weakened, and as a result of that weakening, it has modified the climate in terms of the jet streams being able to load up more with vaporous platforms, which increases that water in the jet stream. And because there's more water in the jet stream, we get fragmentation like we're seeing now with polar and subtropical jet streams over the northern and southern hemisphere, even interchange with tropical and tropical over the equator. And of course we are going to get weather disruptions. We are going to get records breaking, both in terms of the amount of water that is dumped in a short space of time, and, you know, early forest seasons like we are seeing at this moment in Europe. So, you know, climate change is real. The reasons that the mainstream organisations feel it's based on is different to our theory here. You know yourself, because you have alternative views on climate these days, you're ridiculed for it, you're sacked for it, you know, you are laughed at for it. But there is no common sense to them saying that this climate shift is a result of anything to do with CO2, because it's just nonsense. It's got nothing at all to do with CO2. This is more along the lines of the changes that are occurring with our sun in terms of the grand solar minimum, the changes of our magnetic intensities weakening in some parts of our world and increasing in others, and of course, you know, the fact that on the Milankovitch cycle we're probably 6 to 8,000 years into that, and therefore we are returning to a glacial period on this earth. And we know through the studies of that glacial record going back 450,000 years that when the earth is in an interglacial period, nice warm period, you know, CO2 does rise. When we're in an interglacial period, CO2 falls. I believe there's more work to do in terms of core samples, looking specifically at very fine areas during interglacial periods with regards to how much CO2 is actually released, because I believe in that 30 year period we would find CO2 levels increasing if we examined them core samples a little bit more in detail. But what we're actually looking for is 30 years in a 1,000-year cycle, which is, 30 years in a 100,000-year cycle, and that is a very, very fine sliver of ice in that core sample. But I believe with the technology that we've got today, we can do that. So guys, once again, there's a link down there. I really hope that we can start getting some finance raised for this observatory. You know, we're putting more equipment out in the field, and by any means our work is not over and done with here. This is one of the rarest anomalies that mankind has ever faced, and certainly at the rate of inhabitants on this planet right now. We know it definitely affects the climate. It affects cardiac arrhythmias. It affects the amount of cancer that is, you know, increasing. And it doesn't just affect human beings. Yes, we know it affects a lot of other biodiversities on our planet across all ranges. We've seen how migration has been impacted on certain species of animals and marine life. So it's real, and we need to get real, guys. We really do. If we want to keep things coming along, keeping the data, you know, regularly coming, we need to get serious about supporting this observatory. This isn't the time to, you know, relax, let somebody else, do the work. It's about all chipping in and keeping this observatory, performing the way it should do, and if not, even better. Guys, I want to just say what I usually do. There's a link down there if you want to help support us. I surely hope that you do. And it's time to start preparing, taking care of your loved ones. There's nothing else for me to say other than what I normally do. Bye for now.